Murdered, a podcast. I'm your host, AB. And this week on Mama Murdered, a podcast, we're covering a case that has literally boggled my mind since the first time I remember reading anything about it, and it's probably going to do the same to you. This episode is a day late, and that was completely unexpected and not at all in the plan. My niece had her baby on Monday, and then Tuesday I had to drop my oldest son off at school at like 5 a.m. for a field trip to Florida for a few days. And then when I came to the she shed yesterday to record, I pulled my notes up on my computer and they were gone. Just completely gone. So all day yesterday and half the day today, I've been trying to retype and reread and redo my notes just so I could drop this episode today. And I'm not really sure how long this episode will be. And this will definitely be a 2-part episode. So part 1 today may be shorter than normal, but I'm not really sure how long it'll actually be. And then part 2 next week will probably be a lot longer than normal. So with all that being said, and without further ado, let's get it. Jennifer Kesse was born to Drew and Joyce Kesse on May 20th in 1981. And the family relocated to Florida when Jennifer was still pretty young. Jennifer was the only daughter, but she wasn't their only child. She also had a younger brother who she was extremely close with named Logan. And it's crazy for me to think that these two were so close because Logan is about 3 years younger than Jennifer. And my kids are only 13 months apart and all they do is fight and argue. So it's always weird for me when people say that they're really close with their siblings, even when they're years apart. But it seemed more like Jennifer and her younger brother were the typical, cool older sister and annoying younger brother until they got a little older. Because once Jennifer and Logan got a little older, their relationship changed and they ended up being extremely close and more like best friends than siblings. And as they got older and into their high school years and beyond that, Jennifer never missed one of Logan's soccer games, and the two ended up kind of running in the same circles with the same people as they got older. So it seems like this is the best kind of sibling relationship that you can think of. Jennifer was very much a daddy's girl, but she was also extremely close with all of her family. The Kesses were just a super tight-knit, well-rounded family unit. Jennifer's family also say that she was always very direct and blunt, and she said exactly what was on her mind. You never really had to wonder whether Jennifer liked you or not, because if she didn't, she had no problem letting you know that she didn't like you, and then giving you a list of reasons on why she just don't mess with you like that. Which I resonate with this so bad because I feel like I'm the same way. I'm just not good at sugarcoating things because sugarcoating things is what gives you diabetes and nobody wants to be a diabetic. And it seems like Jennifer was the same way. Once Jennifer graduated from high school, she went off to college at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, where Jennifer's younger brother Logan would come and visit on most weekends, and they would always keep in touch when they weren't hanging out. Jennifer also joined a sorority during her time in college, and she eventually graduated college with honors in 2003 with a degree in finance. All of Jennifer's friends from college remember her as being the safest out of any of their other friends. They even called her the mother hen of the group. She was the one who would take care of everybody else, but Jennifer was safe in other ways too though, and she would even do what she called a safety call. So when she was walking into a store like a Target or a Starbucks or even the grocery store, Jennifer would call someone, whether it be her mom, dad, brother, or just a friend, but she would call someone and just get them to stay on the phone with her while she got out of her car and walked into the store. And then once she was in the store, she would hang up. Once she got done shopping and was walking back out to her car, she would call somebody again. And she would stay on the phone until she got back to her car. And she did this regardless of whether it was daytime or dark outside. And Jennifer didn't do these safety calls just when she felt uncomfortable or if she was in a maybe not the best part of town. She did these safety calls every single time she went into anywhere. And all of these safety precautions were kind of just second nature to everyone in the Kesse family, because before Jennifer and her brother Logan were ever even born, their parents, Drew and Joyce, had actually been held at gunpoint inside of their own home. So once Joyce and Drew had kids of their own, they really ingrained different safety practices into both Jennifer and her brother Logan. It would be completely normal for Drew and Joyce to be sitting at the dinner table, eating dinner with Jennifer and Logan, and for the entire family to be going over, like, how to get out of the trunk of a car if you were ever kidnapped. And they would talk about things like the ways to draw attention to yourself if you were ever carjacked. And then Jennifer and her mom Joyce would even talk through episodes of Law and Order once Jennifer was an adult. And they would kind of talk through the different episodes and different scenarios and situations that had played out within the show. And they would just talk to each other about what they would have done differently or what else could have been done if they had been put in the same situation that had happened on the show as it played out. So it kind of sounds like Jennifer was a little bit of a crime junkie herself, which is always scary to think about somebody that knows all of these things can happen and be prepared for them happening. And still something like this happens where you did everything right and it still wasn't enough. Now, while Jennifer was always a daddy's girl, Jennifer and her mom kind of found their groove once Jennifer was in college and more of an adult. That's when their relationship between Joyce and Jennifer really started to blossom. So we know that Jennifer was intelligent, family-oriented, beautiful, bold, reliable, and always, always, always aware of her surroundings, which are all of the best qualities of a person that you'd want to be friends with. So flash forward to when Jennifer was 24 and she was working her first job since she'd graduated from college. She was working at a finance company as a finance manager at the Central Florida Investment Timeshare Company, and that was just right outside of Orlando, Florida. And even though this was Jennifer's first kind of big girl job, she had completely blown her employers away and she was promoted 3 different times during her first year with this finance company, which I feel like is an insane accomplishment. Jennifer ended up being a vital part of this company, and her ideas and finance strategies even ended up saving this company tons of money in literally every single department. Now, Jennifer's parents paid for her car and her phone bill every month, and her parents also paid for Jennifer's younger brother Logan's car and phone every month as well. But Jennifer's parents had one rule with both Jennifer and Logan about paying these things for them. That one rule was non-negotiable, and it was that if Jennifer's parents ever called and Logan or Jennifer didn't answer, both the car and the phone that Joyce and Drew paid for would be taken away for not answering a call. So their one rule, one stipulation for paying these things was that Jennifer and Logan always, always, always answer the phone for their parents, even if they're avoiding the world and they're not answering calls from anybody else. They both knew that the one rule was to answer the phone for their parents. And this one rule will become more important as we get further into this case. But then in November of 2005, Jennifer did something that a lot of people may never get to do, no matter how old they are, and she purchased her first home, which ended up being a condo in a complex called Mosaic at Millenia. And this condo was perfect for what Jennifer was looking for. She would be living close enough to walk to downtown, and it seemed like a prime location spot for a young, successful woman to be living. This condo complex's biggest selling point for Jennifer was the fact that it was in a gated community and that there was supposed to be a security guard at the main entrance of the property. The security guard was supposed to keep up with who came in and out of the property, and then the next big selling point for these condos would have had to have been the closeness to all of the major restaurants, resorts, amusement parks, malls, bars, etc. And even though Jennifer had been able to purchase her first home by herself in November of 2005, sadly, Jennifer wouldn't get to enjoy her first home for very long. Because in January of 2006, Jennifer was added to the ungodly long list of missing people within the United States. And it's a little ironic because Jennifer moved into her apartment on November 24th, 2005, which was actually Thanksgiving Day. But it was exactly 2 months later, on January 24th, 2006, that she would be reported missing. And even still to this day, she's missing even 18 years later, with a suspect caught on camera. Yeah, you heard that right. So Jennifer had gone to spend some time with her family for Christmas in 2005. She returned home to her condo complex shortly after the Christmas holidays, but being that Jennifer had already moved into the building, the complex was still doing renovations on all of the condos in the building, including Jennifer's condo. And Jennifer wasn't exactly keen on having a slew of different construction workers in and out of her condo building all the time, but I'm pretty sure this was like a punch list type of thing where after you buy a house, crews are sent in to fix like small flaws or missed spots. Like if the paint is chipped in one room, or if the knobs on the cabinets aren't tightened, the way you want them, or if maybe one electrical outlet doesn't work. You, as the homeowner, just make a list of all these things, and then over the course of the next few weeks or months, different crews would be sent in to fix, every tiny flaw that you were able to find and list. And from my understanding, there were still condos in this building that were not move-in ready, because all of the units had originally been apartments, and they were just in the process of being renovated and turned into condos to be sold. So instead of being a rented apartment unit, they were turning these into condos to be able to sell them. And Jennifer had actually been the very first person to close on one of these new condos, which she was super proud of and super excited about. But since they were doing so much work inside of this building and inside of this complex, the construction workers would sometimes stay in unfinished condos, as in like spend the night in these unfinished and empty condos. And it wasn't like all of these construction workers had been hired through the condo company and passed a background check and, things like that. There were no paperwork on the majority of the workers, and there was also no way to keep track of, all of these different men. According to other people who lived in this complex at or around the same time as Jennifer, they say that there were just so many different men in and out of the complex every day, so it was never the same group of men. But a lot of the jobs had been like contracted out to other companies who were not affiliated with the condos, who would then send their own guys in to do whatever task needed to be done. And some of these men were even being paid under the table, which that just makes it even harder to track down who was there on what days and what times. I also believe that I read somewhere that a lot of the construction workers were undocumented immigrants, but it wasn't just the fact that, these were undocumented immigrants who were basically living in these unfinished condos with no paper trail of who was actually in the building that Jennifer didn't like. That really wasn't the problem. She had also made it pretty clear that the people that she was closest to, that these men liked to whistle at her when she walked by. They would stare Jennifer up and down as she walked through. They would make inappropriate comments to her in Spanish, not realizing that she spoke Spanish. And they would even catcall her. Which all of that's enough to make anybody uncomfortable. But Jennifer lived alone. Even though she lived alone, she did have a boyfriend named Rob Allen, who she had been dating for over a year. Rob and Jennifer's relationship was long distance, being that Rob lived in Fort Lauderdale, which was a little over a 3-hour drive from Orlando, where Jennifer lived. Rob had actually been in Orlando with a buddy of his, and they'd gone out to a bar where he ended up meeting Jennifer, and the rest was history. The couple tried not to let the long distance part get to them. They spoke to each other every morning on the phone while they drove to work, and they would talk to each other again every evening before they went to bed. And this was kind of like their routine thing that they did every day throughout the week, and then almost every weekend, the couple would meet up, at one of their places, and they'd spend the weekend together. So they were seeing each other damn near every weekend. But during the week, when the construction workers were having to come in and out of her condo, Jennifer would call her dad or her boyfriend or her brother while the workers were inside of her condo. And she would stay on the phone with whoever she called the entire time that the men were in there working on her condo, whatever it may be that they were doing. And Jennifer would always make sure to leave her front door opened, and she would also stand in front of the doorway as a means of being able to escape a bad situation easily. And she would stand in the doorway with the door open while she was still on the phone with whoever she'd called. This was just the way Jennifer was. She was always thinking of ways to keep herself safe and out of a bad or dangerous situation. Now, the weekend before Jennifer was reported missing, her and her boyfriend Rob had gone on an extended weekend to St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And on Monday, January 23rd, Jennifer made it back to work after her trip, and everything seemed to go on as usual. After work, she can be seen on the toll road cameras taking her usual route home after work. And while Jennifer had been gone on this trip, her brother Logan and one of Logan's friends had actually stayed in Jennifer's condo. I've also read that there were 2 friends that stayed with Logan at Jennifer's condo the weekend that she was gone, and that one of the friends was actually an ex-boyfriend of Jennifer's, but he didn't actually spend the night at the condo. He just came over and hung out one night, something like that, but I'm not really sure how true that is. So once Jennifer got home from work on her first day back since her trip, she called her parents to tell them all about how her trip had gone, and she also called her brother Logan. Now, while Jennifer was on the phone with Logan, Logan let her know that his friend had left his phone in her condo by mistake. This was a new work-issued phone, so he wasn't used to having it, so he wasn't used to having to keep up with it. So Logan, Jennifer, and Logan's friend had decided that Jennifer would mail this friend his phone back to him. And that was that. Then Jennifer called a friend to tell her about how the trip had gone and to kind of vent about how she hated the fact that Rob was so far away all the time. And then Jennifer actually called Rob at 9:57 p.m. And this call actually came from Jennifer's landline phone, which is a pretty good way to determine whether or not someone's at home or not, right? And Rob does later say that Jennifer had said that she had been laying in the bed while the two were on the phone, and the two had gotten into a little bit of an argument about being in a long-distance relationship, but that it wasn't like an explosive, rage-filled conversation. They just both wanted to be closer to each other, and they were frustrated about it, especially after spending a long week together. Now it was time to get back to reality, and they both realized that, they wanted to be closer. Which this sounds like a very normal, long-distance relationship kind of conversation. And why would Rob even bring this, disagreement up if he was involved? There would have been nobody else there to hear that conversation. Does that make sense? Now, Rob also says that while he and Jennifer were on the phone, that Jennifer had told him that someone was knocking on her door, but she said that she wasn't going to answer it. Jennifer also told Rob that she thought it was her upstairs neighbor, but I'm not sure if she actually got up to see that it was her upstairs neighbor, or if she was just making an educated guess. After this, Jennifer and Rob say their goodnights and they hang up from their call. And this would be the last time that Rob or anyone else ever spoke to Jennifer. Now, like I said, they were long distance, so they would talk to each other every day before work, and Jennifer had to be at work earlier than Rob did, so she would always either call or text him, just to tell him that she loved him and to have a good day. So the next morning on January 24th, though, Rob was running late for work, and Jennifer hadn't called or texted him already that morning, which was something that she did every single day. But since Rob had already been running late for work, he tried to give Jennifer a call on his way to work, but he only got her voicemail. So Rob goes to work, and after he finishes his first meeting for the day at 9 a.m., he tried calling Jennifer again. But again, he got no answer. When Rob still hadn't heard from Jennifer by 10:30 or 11 a.m., he actually called Jennifer's job. And that's when Rob was informed that Jennifer hadn't come into work that day at all, but that she also hadn't called out or let anyone know that she wasn't going to be there, which was extremely, extremely out of character for Jennifer. And then once Jennifer missed a pretty important meeting at work shortly after this, the CFO of the company knew something was wrong, and as it turns out, Jennifer's dad, Drew, was actually friends with the CFO of the company that Jennifer worked for. So Jennifer's boss called her dad, Drew, to see if maybe he knew what was going on. And Drew tells him that it's not like Jennifer to not call or show up, but, he really has no idea what's going on. So he tries to call Jennifer himself because remember, that's the one rule. Mom and Dad pay the car and phone payment as long as you always answer the phone when one of them call. If not, they would take the phone and the car. But when Drew tried calling Jennifer and it went straight to voicemail, it was almost like he knew immediately that something was wrong. Since Jennifer had gotten her cell phone, she had never let it die, and she always, always, always answered when her parents called. No questions asked, she always answered. And then Jennifer's mom, Joyce, tried to call Jennifer's phone, and it also went straight to voicemail. And I think this was more of a parental instinct than anything else, because not only had Jennifer not shown up for work, but she also wasn't answering her parents' calls, and they both just knew that something was wrong. And almost immediately after realizing that something was wrong, Drew called Logan, and he was at the gym, so Logan's like, I'm on the way, I'll meet you there. So Drew, Joyce, and Logan were all in their own vehicles making the drive towards Jennifer's condo. And the entire drive, they were all calling different places to see if maybe Jennifer was there. They were calling all of the friends of Jennifer's that they could think of. They were calling hospitals, police departments, urgent cares, and even jails. But Jennifer's mom, Joyce, has said that a car accident or a health problem never even crossed her mind. She says that she knew almost instinctually that it was something worse than that. Now, also while Jennifer's parents and brother were making the drive to Jennifer's condo, Jennifer's dad Drew called Jennifer's complex to see if someone could go inside of her apartment and take a look around, just to see if maybe Jennifer was there or if it looked like a struggle had taken place. And the condo complex tells Drew that they can go into Jennifer's condo, but they would have to find another staff member to go in with them because it was against company policy to enter a condo without at least 2 employees present. So Drew basically says, I'll wait. So, the employer comes back on the phone and tells him that they have someone else that can go into the condo with them, and they actually keep Drew on the phone while they go inside of Jennifer's condo. Her condo had been locked when the complex employees had gotten to the door before they'd used a master key to get inside. And once they were inside, they were relaying to Drew over the phone that nothing really looked out of place and that nothing looked disturbed. So from here, Drew asked if one of these employees could go out to the parking lot and just check and see if Jennifer's car was parked outside. But Drew was informed that her car wasn't there. So now Drew and Joyce know for sure that something's wrong. So they went ahead and called the Orlando Police Department to try to report Jennifer as a missing person. But as per usual, the police department told Drew and Joyce that Jennifer had probably just gotten into an argument with her boyfriend, and that she was probably just gone somewhere blowing off some steam. Which this always really pisses me off because I can guarantee you that her parents know her well enough to know that not showing up for work and not answering her phone is out of character, and it's enough out of character for them to know that something is wrong. But again, the police department doesn't really take this call seriously. And then Drew and Joyce finally make it to Jennifer's condo, and when they get inside, they are absolutely 100% positive that Jennifer had been inside of her condo that morning at least at some point. Jennifer's parents found that her bed definitely looked as if she'd slept in it the night before, and they also found that the shower was still wet as if someone had recently showered. Like there were pools of water under the bottles of shampoo and conditioner in the corners of the shower, places that kind of hold water after you get in the shower. There was also a wet towel on the counter in the bathroom, along with all of Jennifer's hair and makeup products still sitting out. And Jennifer's mom, Joyce, isn't shy about saying that Jennifer was like a bathroom slob. She kind of explained that Jennifer's entire condo would be spotless until you went into Jennifer's bathroom. And she says that this bathroom definitely looked like Jennifer had been the one to use it. And the only thing that seemed to be missing were things that Jennifer would have needed to leave her house, like her purse, her phone, her wallet, her keys. And I think even her iPod and her briefcase were also gone, and these would be things that would be considered essential things for Jennifer. But aside from those few things being gone that Jennifer would have needed for a work day, there was nothing else to really indicate that this had been anything other than a typical morning for Jennifer getting ready for work. It's almost as if Jennifer had woken up, jumped in the shower, gathered her things for work, and left the house just like she did every other weekday. And whether or not the police were taking this seriously, Jennifer's family definitely were. Because Jennifer's brother Logan started knocking on every single door in Jennifer's complex, asking if they'd seen Jennifer or if they heard anything suspicious or seen anyone out of place. Logan also spoke to any construction workers that he saw while he was knocking on doors, and he immediately became suspicious of the construction workers that didn't want to cooperate with him asking simple questions like, "Have you seen this woman?" Or, "Did you see anything weird that you can think of today?" And the only thing that I'll say about this is that if some of these construction workers were illegal immigrants, then maybe that would explain why they didn't want to be involved, but that's a reach. And by 4 o'clock that afternoon, Jennifer's parents were already handing out missing person flyers in the area or near and around Jennifer's complex. And they were also tacking up signs on the side of the streets and the roads that were close by Jennifer's complex. And it wasn't until Jennifer never came home from work that night that the police actually started taking her disappearance more seriously. And by the time that police were actually ready to do their jobs, Jennifer's parents, brother, and boyfriend were already inside of Jennifer's condo with about 10 other friends and people that knew her. And they were kind of using Jennifer's condo as sort of a command post, which sounds like a great idea until you realize how many people are walking around on a potential crime scene. And the police made sure to point this out. But if police would have taken the Kesse family's claims seriously to begin with, then they probably wouldn't have had to resort to setting up their own operation. And this is when we find out that the security of the complex that Jennifer had bought a condo in wasn't as good as they had made it out to be. The security just wasn't top-notch like they'd claimed it was when Jennifer made her purchase. But we'll have to get into that next week. There is so much more to this case. It's going to blow your mind. We have literal footage of someone driving Jennifer's car, parking it, and walking away. And even 18 years later, we still have no idea where she is or what happened. But we'll have to get into that next week, so let's do it again. Same time, same place, next Wednesday. See you then.
That's How My Mama Murdered a Podcast.